Welcome everyone, I am Samson Omale and I'm in Jos Plateau State, North Central Nigeria, and this is Africa Matters. Motorcycle gangs and bandits are causing fear in the north of Nigeria, targeting vulnerable communities and kidnapping women and children. Kidnapping for ransom is a growing problem in the West African country, and we take a look at what's driving it. Two separate incidents targeted a displaced persons camp and a school in the north of the country. Kidnapping for ransom in Nigeria has now become a serious problem, as Randolph Nugel reports.
These parents want their children back. They're just a few of the relatives of more than 280 students kidnapped from their school in northwest Nigeria last week. The state governor has come to try and provide reassurance.
No child will be left behind. All of them will come back home by the grace of God, inshallah.
But the situation in Nigeria's north is very much out of control. Over the last 10 years, abductions of women and children have only gotten worse.
My children were also abducted. We don't know what they're going through in the den of their abductors. We plead with the government to help us. We don't have any security in this community.
Armed bandits, sometimes traveling by motorcycle, are often the culprits. But groups like Boko Haram have also been known to carry out mass kidnappings. The security situation in northern Nigeria began to spiral out of control after Boko Haram launched its insurgency in 2009. The group is also active in neighboring Chad, Niger, Mali, and northern Cameroon. The most infamous incident was in 2014, when 276 schoolgirls were kidnapped by Boko Haram in Chibok. The then president, Goodluck Jonathan, promised to bring the fight to the armed group.
Terrorists and organized crime syndicates operate in networks that can only be defeated through concerted action and cooperation.
His successor, Muhammadu Buhari, also promised more security. During his term, the Senate passed a bill imposing jail terms of at least 15 years for payment of a ransom, and made kidnapping punishable by death for cases in which victims die. More than 4,700 people have been kidnapped since President Bola Tinubu came to power in May of last year. Kidnapping in Nigeria remains a low-risk, high-reward business being carried out on an industrial scale, with the perpetrators rarely brought to justice. Randolph Nugel, Africa Matters.
Insecurity is a significant concern in Nigeria. Nearly 20,000 people have been kidnapped in almost 2,700 incidents over the past decade, according to the country's security tracker. And the numbers are rising once again. Let's take a closer look.
The number of abductions has been on the rise since 2013. That year, 351 people were kidnapped for ransom. In 2014, 897 people were kidnapped. Kidnappings have continued to increase overall since, with 926 victims in 2015, peaking at 5,287 in 2021. In the first 6 months of 2023, at least 1,384 were abducted.
The bandits are purely criminals. They have no theocratic agenda. They also engage in acts of kidnapping. They burn down villages. They attack farmers. They attack commuters. They attack schools. Now, bandits are simply motivated by money. They have no religious agenda. Once they kidnap, you pay them, you go.
School students are at particular risk. More than 1,000 children were taken from Nigerian schools in 2021 alone, according to Save the Children. Data from the Nigerian security tracker also reveals a shifting pattern of kidnappings across the country.
When the spate of abductions first began, they were mostly confined to the Niger Delta, where militants targeted oil workers. The northeast and southern regions bore the brunt of kidnappings in 2014 and 2015, following the Boko Haram insurgency. But in recent years, the rise of terrorism and banditry in the north central and northwest regions driven an increase. Kaduna State in northwest Nigeria has the highest number of reported cases, recording 3,594 kidnappings. Zamfara State, also in the northwest, recorded 2,523 kidnappings, while there were 2,433 abductions in the north-central Niger State. In comparison, Sokoto State in the northwest experienced a lower number of kidnappings, with 404 people abducted. While this figure is significantly lower than the average regional trend, it clearly indicates a growing security crisis.
Let's hear more from Ukandi Ode, who is a public affairs analyst. He joins me here in Jos. Ukandi, we have reported of mass abductions. What's going on? Why the rise in kidnapping?
You see, the kidnappings are happening every day. They're on the rise because more people are getting involved, because it has become a business. Business not just for the ordinary street criminal that we thought was responsible for it initially, but because high-profile people who are highly placed are getting involved. They have the means, they procure the arms, they recruit the personnel who go ahead to execute these dastardly acts, and they turn around to receive ransom on the heads of their victims, from their families, from companies, from the government.
Now, most of these abductions are taking place in areas where you have heavy military infrastructures, like Kaduna State.
Well, it is so because the crime has been thriving because the security system has not been effective. There is insincerity among the security agencies. The ranks and file are not recognized when it comes to the issue of providing security for Nigerians. So, in as much as this insincerity continues, it will continue to thrive, and the criminals will succeed in such places.
Now, why has this become such a widespread occurrence in Nigeria and such an attractive money-making activity for the gangs?
If a business is well paying and it's paying very, very well, as a matter of fact, you expect a lot of people to venture into it. And as I told you, highly placed persons are involved. So, in as much as the security now is not able to stop it, more people will make money from it. It will continue.
What do security forces and, of course, the government more broadly need to do to get a grip on the situation?
One, the government must have the will to prosecute, especially those who have been caught for carrying out kidnapping. Two, the government must have the will to fish out bad eggs from its system. And three, there should be a new orientation of the security agencies. There is a lot of distrust, there is lack of patriotism, there is hate, there is suspicion in the ranks and file among the rank of file of the Nigerian security apparatus. So, if they can do this and reconcile themselves and stand as one agency for one country, they'll be able to fight insecurity or kidnapping to a halt.
Now, are local citizens in areas where kidnapping is widespread able to do anything, just anything, to protect themselves?
Now, you see, like what happened in Zamfara, what happened in Kaduna, I'm beginning to ask questions that this thing does not look like kidnapping per se anymore. It's a regime movement. So communities themselves too have to be sincere to themselves. They have to step up the show. They have to rise to the occasion and kind of maybe raise vigilantes and provide their own security and guide against this kind of act. In most of these cases, as I said, it is like a business. How do you tell me of 200 persons being taken away in a night? In what means? By what means? In what, is it in aeroplane or whatever? So it's questionable. It's questionable. So the communities themselves should look inwards.
Now, how do perpetrators of these abductions evade capture? And what challenges do authorities face in apprehending them?
They evade capture, one, because intelligence gathering is failing. Two, they evade capture because there are saboteurs within the system who protect them. Three, because the security agencies are not actually working the way they're supposed to work. And because they have sponsors who are highly placed, who frustrate all efforts to arrest and prosecute such persons.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. I've been speaking with Ukandi Ode, a public affairs analyst from here in Jos. Somalia and Turkey have a relationship that spans over 3 decades, and recently the focus has shifted to military and economic collaboration. The two nations have signed a long-term plan aimed at revitalizing Somalia's military capabilities. Our correspondent, Obaida Hito, was given access to the main Turkish military base in Mogadishu and sent this report.
At the Turkish Somalia Task Force Command in Mogadishu, some 6,000 Somali military personnel have been trained by the Turkish military since 2017. After 3 years of training, they will graduate and join their army as first lieutenants.
Komando personeli olarak görev yapmaktayım.
We are here to help train the next generation of Somali soldiers. We are also providing security for the base. We also teach them about Turkish culture and heritage. As a soldier, I am proud to be doing this work.
The Turkish Ministry of Defense says the joint task force aims to strengthen ties between the two countries and improve organization, training, education, military infrastructure, and logistics of the Somali army.
I'm doing a 6-month tour here in Somalia. Our country sent us here with all the resources we need to support the Somali people in the best way we can.
Bilateral military cooperation has significantly increased over the past decade, and it's become an even higher priority in light of recent regional developments. We're at the back door of the joint task force here in Mogadishu, where Somali and Turkish military forces have set up a training base and training academy. 230 Somali cadets are currently undergoing computer and Turkish language lessons alongside their military training, skills they need to effectively cooperate with their Turkish counterparts.
Artık tüm veriler All data is now digital and we don't use hard copies like before, so all soldiers need to have strong digital skills. That's why we are teaching them how to collect, secure and distribute digital data effectively.
Down the hall from the computer lab, a Turkish lesson is underway. 23-year-old Hani wants to be a professional soldier, and she says she has high aspirations for her military career.
I am a first-stage cadet at the War College. It's my dream to become a soldier. I'm so grateful that Somalia and Turkey made this possible. My goal as a soldier is to one day become a pilot. That's why I need to learn to speak Turkish better so that I can go to Turkey and train with the Air Force. Our trainers and instructors are helping us pursue such dreams.
Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud has attended a graduation ceremony of personnel from a Turkish training program. Obaidahito, Africa Matters.
Still in East Africa, countries along the equator are facing unusually high temperatures ahead of heavy rains expected later this month. One Ugandan environmental activist believes trees are one of the best fighters against climate change and that the world has badly neglected them. She's hoping to change that with a unique approach. Darren Alan Chiune has more from eastern Uganda.
Faith Patricia Ariokot is a devoted lover of nature. She has spent a lot of time around trees since she was 12. The 29-year-old believes they are the best answer to one of the world's biggest problems.
Climate change causes changes in the rain patterns. Who makes the rain? Trees contribute a lot. When we speak of climate change and we have pollution as a problem, trees help us in clearing the air that we breathe. When we speak of the soils that are affected because of too much usage or whatever, trees help us in nurturing or adding nutrients to that soil.
Since the turn of the century, Uganda has faced massive deforestation. According to the UN's financial agency, it has lost more than 10,000 square kilometers of tree cover, about a third of Uganda's entire area. Patricia's reaction to deforestation hasn't been ordinary.
We're beyond the 15 hours.
She recently broke the world record for the longest time hugging a tree.
I had to do 3 different attempts. On my first attempt, there was missing footage. By my second attempt, we also had a similar problem, and this time we even had lightning strike. Trees are rough on the hand, so you're going to feel the pain. I couldn't take a break whatsoever. For 16 long hours standing on your feet, it wasn't an easy journey at all.
This may look like an ordinary pencil for scholars, but Patricia and her team place at least 3 tree seeds underneath each pencil rubber
and supply them to schools to try bridge the knowledge gap between children and climate change. For the past 2 years, Patricia and her team have made at least 5 climate change-themed outreaches like these every month. With the boom pencils, she has brought her message to over 50,000 children in 75 schools across eastern and central Uganda.
Even a pencil, it comes from a tree. We get these seeds and we plant them. If they grow up, we shall get food, even provide us with oxygen. We get even fruits like oranges, mangoes from the seeds. Yeah, and if we cut, we replace with another one.
Despite receiving a lot of praise online after her unique world record, Patricia says she won't rest until people take a leaf out of her book and plant more trees across the country. Darren Alan Cheune, Africa Matters, Soroti, Eastern Uganda.
The South African government and conservation agencies said there is a need for a more professional attitude among rangers to counter a rise in rhino poaching. The latest figures released by the Environment Ministry show almost 500 rhinos were killed last year, a 10% increase on 2022's figures. Isipeng Mutema reports now on efforts to train rangers to be more effective against armed poachers.
Setting off on the most crucial test of their course, these trainee rangers have to catch mock poachers planted in this nature reserve in Limpopo province. Coordinating with other teams, they have to track down the poachers and arrest them just as they would in a real-life situation. It's part of an intensive 45-day anti-poaching training program, which involves spending time in the bush in order to learn the terrain.
During this training, you are going to experience how to handle firearms competently, and also how to follow up human tracks and understanding the behavior of the animals.
Lukeleni says there's an increasing need to have rangers receive this military-style training to square off against armed poachers. Last year, 499 rhinos were poached in South Africa, mostly in national parks. For decades, the country has been fighting to protect the critically endangered animal, a popular target for poachers for their horns. The trafficking of rhino horns is big business. It involves multinational criminal syndicates, unscrupulous wildlife officials, and corrupt government officials. Wildlife Justice Commission, a conservation agency, estimates that in the past 10 years, up to $1 billion has been generated from the illegal trade. Rhino poaching is driven largely by demand for horns, which are used in traditional medicine in some Asian countries. This despite the lack of scientific evidence to support claims about their medicinal properties. Alongside South Africa, Mozambique, Vietnam, China, Malaysia, and Hong Kong also dominate trafficking routes. Vincent Barkas is a conservationist. He says at one time, the majority of the poachers in this region came from Mozambique, and members of these marginalized communities are of special interest to international criminal syndicates because they have sophisticated wildlife tracking and hunting skills. Barkas says economic development is key to stop people being lured into a life of poaching. He works with the Wild and Free Foundation, an initiative that uses football to empower young people and promote conservation.
There was no community work, no thought of community work, anything like that. What conservation was like in South Africa, it was there for rich white people to enjoy. It was excluding black people, and that was causing this conflict. I've learned, to protect rhino, we've got to put people first.
Back at the anti-poaching simulation, the trainee rangers locate the mock poachers. With just a few days before graduation, they explain why they signed up for the course.
Wildlife brings me a lot of joy. I love the nature, and I'd want my kids to be able to share that, future generations as well. And if we don't protect the wildlife, then we're losing one of the best natural resources that we have.
You'd find that a person kills a rhino with its cub and cuts the horns and leaves them like that. It made me really sad, and so I wanted to be in the front line, boots on the ground, to protect them.
But in the face of so many threats, there is some good news. Last year, the International Union for Conservation of Nature said black and white rhino numbers across Africa had increased by more than 5% for the first time since 2012. And it's statistics like these that provide the inspiration for conservationists to continue to fight. Ntshepeng Motema, Africa Matters, Hoedspruit, South Africa.
A Nigerian entrepreneur is addressing economic disempowerment of women fishers. Kila Kafidikpe provides economic empowerment and training. She has helped mentor over 130 YC fishers and start farming their own fish ponds. Brenda Radido reports.
Use the nets.
It's feeding time at Platinum Fisheries. The fingerlings growing here will later be sold at the market. Dupe started this business to help bridge the gap between a lack of local supply and expensive imports.
This is where we raise the eggs all the way to when we can transfer them as fingerlings to the nursery.
It's a vocational program empowering fishers to be independent.
When she took me to this place to have fish something here, when I start with her, sell with her, it changed my life. I sell it again, and I have plenty. I use the money to do plenty things. Because I use the money to send my money to university now.
Many casting their nets off Nigeria's coastline have found their catch diminishing by the day due to overfishing. Joshua used to fish in the wild, but Dupe has taught him how to practice a more sustainable trade.
I had some difficulties before I joined this fishery, but the things I've learned from her, I've implemented. Right now we have about 1,000 fish over there, and we divided them into two, and we got them all from here.
I just developed the interest in at the time that we could solve this problem. We could create our own healthy, source of seafood, and we could do it ethically and sustainably with kindness to the environment.
For many Nigerians, fish is a delicacy. Many cannot afford to buy it at market at a time when food inflation has risen to more than 30%, the highest in almost 20 years. The country is facing its worst economic crisis in a generation, sparking protests calling for government intervention. Nigeria's currency, the naira, has lost nearly 70% of its value against the US dollar, driving up fuel prices threefold and raising the prices of basic commodities.
Over 85% of the seafood we consume in this country are imported. Add to this problem the situation with the economy, with the FX and so on. We are approaching a high level of food insecurity at this time.
Dupe also manufactures fish feed. For now, it helps grow her livestock, but she plans to start selling it to other fisheries in the coming months, helping expand a practice that is restoring livelihoods and the environment. Brenda Radido, Africa Matters.
This week we explore Jenne in southern Mali. It's one of the oldest known cities in sub-Saharan Africa, dating back to 250 BC, and has a rich cultural history. Let's dive in. That's our show this week. Let us know of what you think about the stories you've seen. Share your ideas and feedback. You can find us on X and on YouTube by searching TRT World Africa Matters. Thanks for watching, and it's goodbye from me, Samson Omale, in Jos, Central Nigeria.